and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm Tom Dillon, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Helen Leathers. Good morning, Helen. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm rather sad this morning. We're recording on the day after England were knocked out of the World Cup final. Semi-final, World Cup competition in the semi-final by Argentina. Very sad morning. Nah, I'm all right, really.
Let's move on.
I was sad for 5 minutes. It's just football, isn't it?
Yeah, just a game.
22 overpaid people kicking a ball about. What are we worried about? Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So what are we talking about today then, Tom?
Today we're talking about a book that I read many, many years ago, and one that I keep going back to because it's interesting and informative. Informative is probably the wrong word. It says something about how we respond to change.
Okay. So the book's called?
The book is called Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson, who had a medical degree. I don't think he ever actually practiced as a doctor. He was a writer. He wrote organizational books, leadership books, and Who Moved My Cheese is one of those books.
Oh, now I read this years and years ago.
Yeah, as many people did. And it's still available. It's still in print. It's still popular, I think. But it is one of those books. It's very quick and easy to read. There is some theoretical content around it, but it is mainly, the main part of it is a little bit of a parable, a little story about things changing and how different people respond to that.
With a bit of a comic feel to it.
Yeah, definitely got a comic feel. So it makes it a little bit childlike, but that's part of the power of it, that it's not a textbook on change management. It's a story that lets us see how people respond to change and how we might be one of those people within the story.
So a nice way to frame change so that we understand it.
Yeah, and I think that matters because it kind of bypasses our intellectual defences, doesn't it? It's like we don't feel like we're being preached at. It's just the story. I love the story, and the story unfolds, and we take our message from the story as it unfolds and see ourselves in that story. So, yeah.
And that's the power of a simple story. It sort of sneaks past our conscious filters, doesn't it, in the parts of us that might want to argue about something. Yeah,
and I think it's obviously really useful in coaching because quite often people don't need more information. They just need to better see themselves in that situation. And I think the telling of a story can sometimes help that and let them sort of catch up with themselves in what they're going through. So the time that this became really interesting for me was during COVID, but I'll talk about that later. But so that was a time of change that I suddenly thought, who moved my cheese? My cheese has been moved. Someone's moved it. What will I do now? So it does give you that chance to pause and reflect.
I remember you talking a lot about cheese at that time. In this way, mentioning the cheese.
Yes.
So it's where people perhaps know the facts but haven't yet accepted the implications of the facts of a situation.
Yes, or are choosing to ignore the facts, a little bit of burying their head in the sand, I think.
So tell me about the story.
So the story of Who Moved My Cheese takes place in a maze. So if we imagine a maze that we might see mice scurrying around in experiments, it's that sort of maze. And there are 4 characters. So there are 2 mice. So Sniff and Scurry are the 2 mice. And they do what that says. They go and sniff the cheese out and scurry around to find the cheese, as you would expect in a maze. That's what mice do.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there are 2 little people who are kind of the same size as the mice. So they hurry around the maze as well, trying to find cheese. So they're called Hem and Haw.
Okay, so Sniff and Scurry are mice.
Yeah, and that's important because they act in a very instinctive, mouse-like way.
Okay.
They just run after cheese and find the cheese and eat the cheese. That's their day. So Sniff sniffs out the cheese quite early. He's off, and Scurry just moves quickly. No hanging about.
Okay. And Hem and Haw?
So Hem and Haw are obviously little people. They're humans. And Hem is someone that digs his heels in. So he resists. He doesn't want change to happen. And Haw hesitates. So he's frightened and uncertain, but eventually learns.
So already, even in the names, we've got 4 different responses to cheese.
Yes, and the cheese is obviously represents, in the story, it represents whatever we want in life. So the parable is about cheese, but we're not really talking about cheese here.
Okay.
The cheese is real in the story,
Right.
but it represents anything that we might be looking for. So success, could be money, could be happiness, could be security, status, job, all sorts of different things. Whatever we want to attach to the story.
Okay.
Substitute for the cheese.
Or some people might just want cheese.
They might want cheese, and their cheese might have been moved.
Absolutely. Might be literal.
When Sainsbury's does their thing of moving things about so you are disorientated and look at other stuff that you didn't intend to look at.
Yeah. It's in the other aisle.
Yeah.
So it's a big metaphor, isn't it?
Yes, and it's really about the thing that we think will keep us safe, make us safe, or the thing we assume will always be there.
Okay, that's interesting. The thing we assume will always be there.
Yeah, and I think that's where the story begins to have a bit of bite. So at the start, the 4 characters are in the maze. They're looking for cheese. Eventually they find cheese. Cheese is at cheese station C in the maze. There's lots of cheese there. It feels like the answer. It feels like they've arrived. Everyone's happy. They've found what they're looking for.
Excellent.
So every day they go back to cheese station C and enjoy the cheese.
As you would.
Yeah. But over time, the characters respond differently. So Sniff and Scurry keep their running shoes close by. They stay alert. They notice that the cheese supply is gradually reducing.
Oh.
They don't overcomplicate, but they're paying attention to it.
So they're not surprised when it runs out.
No, but Hem and Haw have got a bit comfortable.
Okay.
They know the cheese is there. They start to rock up a bit late every day. They assume it's always going to be there. So they built their lives around it, set up home nearby. They're just comfortable. And they feel a little bit entitled to the cheese. It becomes part of their identity. They are the people with cheese.
It sounds very human.
Yeah, they are little people. And I think many of us can recognise that, can't we? When we've got comfortable in a particular environment, particular situation we find ourselves in. And it's then that we begin to organise our sense of self around that situation. And it's not like, well, I have this job, this is who I am. And it's not, this way of working suits me, this is how things should be.
And then when it changes, it doesn't just feel inconvenient, it feels threatening.
Yeah, so it becomes very personal. And so within the story, one day Hem and Haw arrive at cheese station C and the cheese is gone.
Oh no, yeah, the central moment.
So, the central moment. Sniff and Scurry, they've been paying attention, so they respond quickly. They just don't stand around trying to explain it. They just get their running shoes on, go and find new cheese. They just head back into the maze looking for new cheese.
Very pragmatic.
Yes, very pragmatic. But Hem and Haw are a bit stunned. They stand there looking, there's no cheese. And they start to feel angry and feel a bit betrayed and start to ask, who moved my cheese?
As you would.
I noticed you did that the other morning.
Did
Who's
I?
moved my stuff? And the question is funny, but it's also quite profound because it externalizes responsibility. It's someone else's responsibility that the cheese has been moved. So the focus is on who did this. It's like a blame thing, isn't it?
Rather than, oh, what do I do now?
Yes. And that's one of the key points of the story, the who moved my cheese. It might be a very understandable first response when something changes, especially if we didn't choose the change. It's natural to feel shock, anger, unfairness, resentment. Those are human feelings. But if we stay there, we get stuck. And that's obviously why it relates to coaching. We might well find people in a coaching room that are feeling stuck because something has changed around them.
Yeah. So the question becomes part of the trap.
Yes. And the question is what keeps them facing backwards. So it keeps them attached to the old cheese. Keeps them waiting for someone to apologise, to fix it, explain it, or return things to how they were.
To bring back some more cheese. And the maze is still there.
Yes, nothing has really changed other than the cheese isn't at cheese station C anymore. So life hasn't stopped and the possibility of cheese hasn't ended. They're just no longer exploring where the cheese might be. So they're standing in an empty cheese station, arguing with reality.
That phrase, arguing with reality, feels very apt.
Yeah, and I think
That's what people do.
we see this in all sorts of contexts, don't we? In organisations, we see it in careers, see it in medicine, structure changes, rate changes, and we end up with that. This should not have happened. So I said earlier that I relate this to COVID, and I remember during COVID, that first response of, oh God, everything is changing. A little bit of denial to start with. Oh, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Some things will carry on. I was doing some work at a university and I thought, okay, well, we should be able to carry on with that. And then they just said, no more. It is all stopping. And then other clients that I was working with started to shut down their stuff. So in the end, everything had gone.
And of course, you were working with the hospital at the time as well, with the coaching
hospital
diploma.
Coaching diploma. That was the first iteration of the coaching diploma. So that got paused because obviously hospitals had other things to do.
Yes.
So I realised that the cheese wasn't coming back anymore. Someone had moved my cheese. That definitely was kind of, okay, this is happening. And I thought, well, I can survive for 3 months, without work, but I'm going to struggle after that. So I set about actually creating new cheese, which is why the diploma exists, because I took the work I was doing with the hospital, took that online and created new cheese.
You set up a cheese factory.
Well, a little bit. So, and it's still churning out cheese. But what I noticed for a lot of people at that time, they went, well, someone's moved my cheese. And a lot of people were furloughed and sat around not doing an awful lot because they were being paid not to be at work. So I think for a lot of people and a lot of self-employed people just went, well, I'll just wait. I'll do some self-care. I just wait for it to come back. And for a lot of people, it never did come back. And I think had I have waited for it to come back, this wouldn't exist. So for me, it's a little bit of, I guess, self-validation, thinking, I got something right. I did the right thing at the right time. But definitely there's something about that we do in the moment think, oh, well, this shouldn't be happening. So a lot of people blamed the government, blamed the Chinese government. Everyone was looking for someone to blame for COVID, weren't they?
Yeah.
But that was the reality. That was what we were facing, and we just had to get on with doing something. So that's not to say that we should just say, well, stop complaining, get on with it. That's not the message of the book. I think there's a more compassionate reading that we might have of it. Yeah,
because change can be painful. Things can be badly handled. If there's change going on at work, things can feel unjust. It can be really, it was a difficult time in COVID. Yeah. People had to make an adjustment.
And for any change, I think we're not going to want to bypass that emotional part of change that people are feeling. We are going to want to sit with them whilst they experience that and talk about it. We can give them the time and space to talk about it. So we're not just going to say, well, the cheese moved, off you go. So we need time for them to express their emotions. But there is a degree to which, okay, this is the new reality. We need to be dealing with it. So back to the book. Hall becomes the most interesting character because he doesn't adapt immediately. He's frightened, he's scared, he's resistant. So he stays at Cheese Station C. They keep coming back, going, well, I'll be back tomorrow. Let's come back tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be back. So he is in that same boat with Hem for a while, but he doesn't stay there.
So he's like a bridging character.
Yeah. And I think he's the one that most people would identify with. So Sniff and Scurry are useful, but perhaps a bit too simple because they do just go, oh, I'm off. Hem is stuck in resistance, but Hall's the one that, although frightened, begins to change.
So that feels much more psychologically real.
Yeah. And he starts to ask himself questions. So he begins to wonder what would happen if he went back into the maze. He starts to imagine the possibility of new cheese. But then fear comes in. What if he gets lost? What if there isn't any cheese? What if he looks foolish? What if he fails?
All good questions.
Yes.
And so the barrier for him changing and going and looking for new cheese is not just practical. It's emotional. It's the imaginative. It's what we imagine might happen. Yeah. That prediction of the potential future.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why it works as a parable. So the maze is not just the outside world, it's also his internal world. The maze is uncertainty, it's fear, it's habit, it's attachment. So it's the stories he's telling himself about what is possible and what is dangerous.
And perhaps about who we're allowed to become?
Yes, very well put. Because often finding the new cheese isn't just about finding a new job or a new opportunity. It's actually about becoming a slightly different version of ourselves, isn't it? And that can be a little bit unsettling. And we obviously see that a lot with our doctors, where they're thinking of stepping outside their medical identity into a coaching role. And that's tricky because they're so used to that, so attached to their medical identity. And obviously for a lot of them, they're not letting go of that completely, but they are thinking about the possibility of stepping into a new identity.
Yeah. So even those positive changes can result in a feeling of loss.
Yeah.
And if identity almost fractures, so there's part of you that's one thing and part of you that's another, that's hard too for people.
So within the story, Hoar's fear makes sense, but eventually he realised staying in the empty cheese station is not making him any safer. It's only safer because it feels safer because it's familiar.
That's such an important distinction, isn't it?
It is. And familiar is obviously not the same as safe. And unfamiliar is not the same as dangerous. So I think our nervous systems can confuse those things, can't they? So he moves on. He goes back into the maze, and as he goes, he writes little messages on the wall as he goes by.
What, for him?
A little bit but also for himself. Things like, if you do not change, you can become extinct. And what would you do if you weren't afraid? Those sorts of, motivational phrases.
So almost like a reflective practice for him.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's what we need when we're frightened. Not something complicated, not a 12-stage model, but a simple truth.
Yeah, I think when people are overwhelmed, they just need some simplicity, don't they?
So what does Hoare discover as he moves through the maze then?
So he discovers a few things. First, that the movement reduces fear. So he's doing something, so that helps him feel less afraid. Not immediately, but it helps. And when he's sitting with Hem, the fear just gets bigger. So definitely the moving is part of the process.
I think a lot of us can relate to that fear can dissipate, that confidence follows movement rather than precedes it.
Yeah.
We need to take a step.
And that's obviously really useful from a coaching perspective, isn't it? That people often wait to feel confident before they act. And sometimes the confidence built through acting. So when we have our coaching doctors and they are thinking about going out into the world to practice with other people in the wild, as we like to say, some people go, I don't know whether I'm confident enough yet. Whereas other people go, well, I'm just going to try it. And then they gain the confidence from actually trying it out. So there is that, again, degree to which just doing something, giving it a go will be helpful.
Yeah, and that links beautifully, doesn't it, with the idea of small steps from solution-focused coaching, just taking small steps.
Hoare doesn't need to solve the whole maze in one go, he just needs to take the next step. And as he does that, he starts to imagine himself finding new cheese, so his internal picture changes. Instead of just seeing the loss, he starts to see possibility.
So very solution-focused.
Indeed, yes. And he begins to create a preferred future in his mind, and that imagined future gives him energy. Still has that fear, but he's no longer governed by the fear.
Lovely. And what about Hem? Does he follow?
Poor old Hem. Bless him. Well, in the original story, Hem is left behind.
Oh.
And Hoare is hopeful that Hem will follow the writing on the wall, and we don't actually find out if he does or not.
Oh.
So it's like an unresolved ending.
I don't remember that part of the book. That's a bit sad. But it's true, isn't it? Because not everyone chooses to change.
Yeah, so people get left behind. So,
yeah,
it is interesting. And I don't think I remember that part of it either, that he was sort of almost a forgotten character by the end. And I think, as a coach reading it, we want to know what happened to him. We want him to have found his way too. I think that's part of our makeup, isn't it?
Yes.
We'd like to encourage him to enter the maze. But it's his life, his choice.
Yeah, and it's all very relevant to coaching.
It is. And coaching isn't about moving someone's feet for them. It's about creating the conditions in which they can see things differently, see things from a new perspective, and choose.
Yeah. So we
choose to move for themselves if they wish to.
We can't drag Hem into the maze. We can't rescue him. So, but in the story, Hoare becomes more self-authoring.
Yes, he stops
creating a
waiting for
story.
the old cheese to return, starts taking responsibility for his own movement, and that's obviously a big, important step in coaching, isn't it? Not only having the awareness, but taking some responsibility for moving forward. And eventually he finds new cheese, and then he's different. And the point's not only that he found cheese, the point is he's learned how to move when cheese moves again. So there's some learning in that process of
A deeper
making the
learning.
change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that thing, isn't it? Not giving the answer, because in finding the answer, people learn for themselves and they learn how to find the answer. Because we know that change is going to happen again. And that's kind of another important message in the story, is that the new cheese is not a permanent guarantee. So he has found new cheese, but cheese might disappear again. So Hall has learned that he needs to keep smelling the cheese, notice when it's getting old, get ready, notice if the cheese is reducing, keeping his running shoes close by.
Which is really about not becoming complacent, isn't it?
And it's something that we notice in our business, isn't it? We've been doing this now for 5 years. It would be very easy for us to think, well, we've been doing this 5 years. We've on cohort 65. This will always be here. But neither of us think that way. And I think probably because we've been self-employed most of our lives, we don't expect it to be there. We don't have that sense of entitlement. Well, this is ours and no one can take it away from us. There is absolutely no reason why things can't change in the world. And maybe people don't want to do coaching training anymore. That's a possibility, isn't it? So
It is. It would be a shame.
it would be a shame, because we know how valuable it is to people. But it's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
So we don't rest on our laurels. We do think about how we're going to find new cheese.
Well, yeah, we review, and we're coming up to our summer break where we spend time reviewing and assessing and making some tweaks.
Think about how we might market it differently. All those lovely things.
Keeping our trainers close by.
It's funny because my old school teacher, Mr. Fawcett, I've probably said this before on the podcast, but my old school teacher, Mr. Fawcett, when I left his class, and I'd been with him for 2 years, so I was 11 at the time, he wrote in my school report, has a tendency to rest on his laurels. Because I was quite bright, but a bit lazy. So, and it stuck with me. That was when I was 11. And all this time later, I'm still thinking, don't rest on your laurels.
Interesting.
Get a bit crushed, don't they?
Yeah. So if we think about this as a parable, what do you think the main lessons are?
I think first lessons, change is inevitable. And it sounds obvious, but I think we can get a little bit complacent. And I think a lot of the distress of life comes from the fact that things are changing, and we see it as a bit of an exception that things shouldn't change. But it is always changing. And sometimes I think we will notice the pace of change, that maybe things are changing at a much faster, but change has always been there and will always be there.
Yeah. And that's quite sobering, isn't it?
Yeah. But it all obviously can also be quite freeing, because if you expect change, then you meet it differently, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the second lesson is that the noticing matters, that Sniff notices early, he's paying attention. And I think in a coaching context, that might mean noticing when energy has changed, when our work no longer fits. Maybe if we're coaching in an organization where our role as a coach for that person has come to an end. Endings in the coaching world, it's not a permanent fixture. So we do have to accept that things will change with each coaching relationship that we have, and just being mindful of that and keep noticing what we're noticing.
So the equivalent of smelling the cheese is paying attention to the signals.
Definitely. And obviously this is particularly relevant for doctors. Doctors are trained to keep going, to keep pushing through, to cope. And that can be a strength, but it can also mean that they override their own signals of how their energy is and how they're coping with everything.
And cheese might be disappearing, but they're still telling themselves, it's fine, I can keep going, I can keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And the third lesson, I think, is that speed of adaptation matters. Scurry acts. Now, I wouldn't suggest everyone just runs out and acts. We did give some thought to changes, but there's something about becoming immobilized by analysis. I don't call it analysis paralysis, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think there's something about that we have to start to take action.
Yeah, and there's a balance, isn't there, between reflection and rumination?
Yes, I think the reflection is obviously helpful in moving us forward, helping us to learn, and the rumination just keeps us going around in circles. So I suppose the question is this thinking helping me move, Or is it just keeping me stuck where I am?
Very good coaching question.
Very good. So I think the fourth lesson is that fear is often the real maze. So Hor has to face that question of what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Because obviously whilst he's at Cheese Station C, he's just afraid to move out of it. So I think that can be a powerful coaching question as well, can't it? What would you be doing if you weren't afraid?
Although I imagine that needs to be asked quite carefully sometimes.
Yeah, I did ask someone the other day about what the fear was. There was a project they were saying they were really passionate about and wanted to get off the ground, but they just weren't doing it. And I think the fear was that it wouldn't be perfect. So yeah. So I think you can ask. I did have someone ask me once, and it was a practice coaching session. She was a very experienced coach, but she said, "So what are you afraid of?" There was nothing I was afraid of. It wasn't about fear. And the question came out of the blue, and I thought, what a strange question to ask, because I'd not given any clue that it was about fear. So it has to be relevant.
Yeah. So
the fifth lesson is that letting go is part of the moving forward. Hor has to let go of Cheese Station C, not because it was bad. It may have been wonderful, but it just no longer contained cheese. So he has to let go. And that's a very Gestalt approach to life, isn't it? That letting go. We have to let go to let other things come. So that completion of the cycle of experience, that Gestalt ends, and we have to let go of it before we can move on to something else.
But it can feel like a hard truth, can't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think something that will have been right for us once and not right for us now. There's a whole way of working, professional identity, a relationship just with the organisation you've been working for. All of those things can be really difficult to let go of.
Yeah, and in coaching, a very tender area.
Yeah, because we're not
emotional.
Just solving a problem. We're allowing for a grieving process, aren't we? That change process to come through.
Yeah.
So if you're listening today and some part of your life or work has changed, perhaps the invitation is not to rush, not to panic, but also not to pretend that things haven't changed and that it doesn't matter. Just gently notice what's true, maybe honour what's been lost, and ask what now might be possible.
That sounds like something I could quote you on. It's beautifully put. I like that.
Philosophical.
Yeah, I'll maybe make a postcard out of it or something.
But, the cheese does move, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've experienced that.
Yeah.
We've all, being
So
self-employed, I think you're much more aware of cheese moving, aren't you?
Yes.
And obviously for a lot of people currently, the cheese is moving and they need to find new cheese, but I think you have to learn that lesson.
Lovely. Well,
Just recognise that the maze may contain far better cheese than we've been used to already.
I like that. Thank you for bringing the cheese today.
I didn't bring any cheese. I'm sorry. If you're expecting cheese, there is no cheese. I think we've got biscuits.
We've got biscuits. It's podcast day.
Podcast day.
Yeah.
Biscuits for Pete.
Yeah.
That's the story I tell.
Not biscuits for cheese.
He doesn't take the biscuits away with him.
No.
I eat most of the biscuits.
You do.
So thank you.
Thank you. That was
Next
great.
time on the podcast, we will be
talking about discovery calls.
We'll be discovering more about discovery calls.
Absolutely.
I shall look forward to that.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Helen.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.